Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge. I'm back from New York City, and we're back with Manchester United. The international break is in the bin. Ruben Amorim's just done his press conference. There are some injury concerns we need to talk about. We'll get into that. Also, I've got a raft of stuff to talk to you about because I've not been live with you since Sunday night. That's got to be some sort of record. I know I was doing some bits of content. Do check those out. I was at Central Park. I was at Manhattan Bridge. If you didn't watch those out, they were on the channel. But we've got a lot to get into here. Ruben Amorim's literally just been speaking to the press about what the situation is with the AFCON, what's the situation with injuries, and the next 10 games opportunity against teams that are considered to be winnable games for Manchester United. I also want to talk to you about what has been said this week about Stiller, about Mainoo, about Baleba, about Casemiro, Semenyo as well. I think just in relation to Casemiro, I mean, Harry Maguire's injured again, by the way. This has just come out from the press conference. And you know me, you might have missed it this week, but I say it how it is, and I'm not going to change. I've been to New York, and you've got to, you're walking down the sidewalk there, and, you've got to hold your ground. You got to hold your ground. And, it's busy. And that's why it's right up my street. But we're busy here. We're going to get into it. And I tell you what, I think you have got to start questioning why we're keeping Harry Maguire at the moment. Like, I understand the experience he's had as bouncing back from adversity, but we're not a bloody charity. He starts against Spurs. He's injured again. He started against, who did he start against? Was it Liverpool or Chelsea? Got injured again. You can't, I'm sorry, Ruben, you can't build a team around players that can't be there every week. I mean, look, we mock people like Phil Jones, Luke Shaw, etc. And I like Harry Maguire, but like, he started against Spurs and now he's injured again. For what? So he didn't even go on international duty. If he is picking up injuries and knocks with such frequency, that's because he's into his early 30s. And I mentioned this before, about 2 years ago. I said with Maguire, he's never going to get any quicker. And the way he plays the game, he's such a big player, like physically. You think about like 10 years at the highest level, putting his body through what it's been through. It's obviously breaking down. I don't agree that we should even be giving 100 grand a week, which is half his wage, to a player that is picking up injuries with this frequency. But you know what the club will do. You know what they'll do on that. So let's get into some of Amorim's stuff first of all. Look, updates on Martinez, updates on Sesko, updates on Mainoo, updates on Maguire. I'll talk to you a little bit about New York a little bit later because it's very, very good. But and I needed the break. But like, I want to get into this. So look, Mainoo is expected to train tomorrow, but hasn't trained today, which means he's still got the injury from before the international break where he didn't even make the bench for Spurs. So he's not trained over the international break at all. So Mainoo, again, he's never going to start against Everton anyway, but he'll do well to make the bench. So international break, opportunity missed because he's been injured. Maguire, we've just spoken about, he's not available, he's not training, so he's picked up a knock post-Spurs and not been on international break either. So again, another player that's just been doing nothing for 2 weeks. Sesko, he says that Sesko is going to be out for a few weeks, but it's not as bad as they thought. So I think with Sesko, we have to accept that it will be a few weeks for him. We'll have to go with what we've got, which feeds quite interestingly into the AFCON, because he was asked about the AFCON and when we could expect Sesko back, and he said, I'm hoping that Sesko will be back coinciding with when we lose players like Ahmad and Burmo and Mazraoui to the AFCON. He was asked about like how significant that's going to be. Are they going to do any deals with some of the nations in the AFCON about letting them go late? Like, remember Onana, he was so desperate to stay in goal that he missed the first game for Cameroon and flew out the next day. Amorim has basically said we've got to respect the nations in the AFCON, and if they call their players up, then they are allowed to do it 2 weeks before their first game. Now, I believe that would take them out from about December the 10th. Which means it'll be more games for us that we won't have these players available for. He said that they are in competition, but I think it's, we've got to respect what that's all about. So I think, look, he did go on to say that we knew about this. We already knew about the AFCON. It's not a surprise. And I like this about Amorim because there are some fans that are very much, oh my God, it's the AFCON. There's some of us like me who go, I think we'll be okay. The fixtures, which we'll talk about in a minute, because Amorim was asked about them, I think we'll be okay. But we did know about this. We knew that we were going to have these games, and we knew when we bought Mbeumo that this was going to happen, and we knew it would happen with Ahmad, and we knew it would happen with Mazraoui. So Amorim is right. He said, look, we knew about it. This is what the under-21s are all about. It's an opportunity for them, and that's an area that we've got to show, you know, that we're serious about, you know, promoting youth at the football club. So all the right things said, and, you know, hopefully Sesko will be back for that. Hopefully we can keep them in Manchester a little bit longer if we can do some deals with the countries of Mazraoui, Ahmad, and well, Morocco, Cameroon, and Ivory Coast. But we knew it was going to happen. And look, regardless of injuries, look, we've all had a little bit of time off. I've had a bit of time off this week, and I think that, you know, going into this next set of games, they come around with quite quick frequency. Even though we're not in Europe, there are a lot of games coming up because of the Christmas period, and we're in a really decent position to kick on, and we must come out of this season with, I believe, top 5 Champions League football. We can't use the excuse of a tournament that we knew about in the summer and the loss of 3 players for a reason we didn't get top 5, and I think that's where I am with it. Par Lynch says, welcome back, Mark. Keeping Maguire would be because of Wilcox. Feel they can get a viable replacement. Feels like we're only replacing positions one at a time. It feels like that's the policy, says Par Lynch. Thank you very much. I don't know whether that's Patrick Lynch or not, but thank you very much, pal. Yeah, I mean, look, we need to move quicker, I think. And if you're tuning in a little bit late, Harry Maguire is injured again. I think that's his 2nd or 3rd injury of the season already. And, you know, we're looking at keeping this player in the summer because he's got a great personality, but his availability is deteriorating this season already. You can't keep players around that aren't reliable, regardless of, you know, personality. CF26 says, good to have you back, Mark. Hope you had fun. Mate, this is like Christmas for me. I have done some pre-recorded content when I was in New York, but to be back live, this is what we're all about. Hope you're well, Mark. Hope you had a great break. Yeah, I'll talk to you about that in a little bit, Daniel. But yeah, feeling well. I'd love to say I'm feeling refreshed, but I flew out of New York last night, New York time at 6 p.m. So they're 5 hours behind. So flew out at 6 o'clock New York time, landed at 6 a.m. London. It was a 6-hour flight. So figure that out. We had to circle London for a bit for the extra hour. So yeah, I've not had a lot of sleep. So, and I've got to do Bundesliga preview tonight and all sorts. But we'll get back there. But you know, these are the breaks. It was good. But I'm feeling a bit tired. But I just love being back doing live content with you lot. Rajaf said, "What's your quick thoughts on McTominay's insane aura?" I'll tell you what I think about McTominay and Scotland. I saw some Scottish people who knew who I was. Shout out to them at Grand Central yesterday, and the Liverpool fan. But the reality is, I don't care a jot about Man United selling Scott McTominay. I find the international break, it's like opening socks and pretending that you're excited about them to your auntie at Christmas. I really do not care about the international break. Scotland have qualified for the World Cup. It's absolutely fantastic, but they've invited my local pub team to the World Cup. There's that many teams in it. I'm looking forward to the World Cup. It's great that teams like Scotland are in it, countries like Scotland are in it, and it's great that Scott McTominay's scoring overhead kicks, but it's international football. It's wank. I only watch it for the international, for the World Cup and the Euros. I couldn't give a toss. It's got nothing to do with the Premier League. And I don't think we made a mistake getting rid of Scott McTominay. I really don't. I think we're moving in a different direction. It's like saying, did we make a mistake getting rid of Rashford, who played very well for England and Barcelona? No, I don't. I think we're moving in a different direction, and I'm tired of looking backwards, you know? I am. That's just my stance on it. It's like Baleba. And I know we're riffing a little bit here because I've been away for a week, so there's going to be people asking me about stuff that has happened this week, as well as we're halfway through this press conference reaction. But I've been saying this since the summer, and I'm a little bit concerned over the international break about the number of reports about Baleba still being Man United's priority. We need to have a conversation, like we've been having a conversation, about how bad he has been this season. And he hasn't been injured, and he hasn't been dropped. So he's not in a similar situation to Mainoo, who can't get game time, and we think we know why, but we don't know why, but he's not been given an opportunity. And he's not in a similar situation to a player that's been injured for 2 months. He's played nearly every game for Brighton and his country, and he's been crap. And still we're hearing, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's crap on the football pitch because he's the player we think is the missing piece. So it doesn't matter that a footballer that you're going to spend a lot of money on to solve our midfield problems is crap in the midfield on a football pitch. Of course it bloody matters. So, look, I think a bit of reality and a bit of opinion is what you're always going to get here. But the Baleba stuff's starting to annoy me a little bit as well, because I'm sort of like, Man United are full steam ahead on Baleba. He's still the priority. And I'm like, we can have a conversation, and we do not need to trust this football club on many things. If they get it right, they get respect. But every decision should be treated on information and hunch and feeling. And United have done nowhere near enough over the last 10 years for us to start going, well, you know what, I think it's a bit dodgy, but I'm going to trust them on this one. Mate, they've got about 50 good decisions to make before I start trusting them on the 51st. So I think with Baleba, I think there is a conversation, and we have been having it on this community for a few weeks now, but there is a conversation to be had about the fact that he's playing in the Premier League, and he's been playing nearly every week, and he's playing bad. And we're just going to sweep that under the carpet because, oh, it's just because he's sad he didn't get a move to Manchester United. It's because he's sad. Come on. Even if that's true, it's weak. Have any views on Man United joining the NBA? Absolutely not. Absolutely none. Sorry. Anyway, so we've spoken about Sesko. We've spoken about Mainoo. We've spoken about Maguire. Let's talk about Martinez. I liked this question, actually. So he was asked about Lisandro Martinez returning to action at Manchester United, and he was asked about whether Martinez can play in the midfield. Now, I like this sort of stuff because over the years, if you just humour us for a moment, we've had people saying, let's play Lindelof in the midfield. Some people even said play Wan-Bissaka at centre-back. You know, these fan theories are what make fans' opinions so important. And Martinez is a player that has been mentioned as a midfielder pretty much since the day he signed. So Ruben Amorim was asked about Martinez's potential to play in the midfield. Obviously, that's because our midfield is, not considered to be very good or very, have a lot of quality and depth. But Amorim just completely and utterly sat this down. He said, look, quality players can play in different positions, but we're not training for that. We're not prepared for that, and we're not going down that road. So I think we can, and Erik ten Hag said the same thing as well. Martinez played in midfield for Ajax many years ago. Ten Hag was asked about it and said, no, I'm not going to do it. And Amorim has basically said, absolutely not going to happen either. He's not prepared for that. We're not preparing for that. That's not what we're going to do. So there we go. MMA Fury says, where's Beth? Who's this prat? Well, they've done a great job without me, mate. Maybe it's a... Maybe I need to go away a little bit more then. I'm more than happy to do it. I'll just do my little 5-minute recordings and out and about. Goldbridge tours the world. But no, it's good to be back, and they did a good job while I was away. So thank you very much to them. But yeah, Martinez will not be playing in the midfield. That's not going to happen. Lynn Hall says Martinez will be introduced gradually, so I doubt he'll start for a bit. Well, this was the next bit, as Lynn has alluded to. When will he be back? Ruben Amorim says basically he is close to being back, but obviously they're going to have to take their time with him. We know that he trains with the Argentinian team over the international break when they were utilising their Spanish training camp, and I think he's going to be. I think he is going to be introduced over the next few weeks. One of the questions was about the next 10 games for Manchester United, and I think that when you look at those games, whether he'd be on the bench for the Everton game on Monday night, I don't know, but Crystal Palace, Wolves, West Ham, you'd expect him to be, coming back into the team on the bench, getting some minutes over the next few weeks, certainly. Of course, he's got to dislodge Luke Shaw from that team at the moment, who is probably quite disappointed at the moment. He's got himself fit every week, and there's been 3 international breaks, and he's not been called up for any of them. But it ain't Southgate in charge anymore, is it? So Luke Shaw's now got to stay fit until March to have any chance of going to the World Cup and being called up for England. So that could be to our benefit because it's miraculous. It's absolutely miraculous. I mean, Luke Shaw should be putting his diet and fitness regime on a website and charging, a subscription fee, because there's the key to fitness and well-being there. Luke Shaw, this miracle man who was basically more broken than a dropped vase, is now suddenly been fit since May until nearly December. And May till December, I remember that was a crap sitcom on the BBC. But look, yeah. So look, Luke Shaw at the moment, who'd bet against him staying fit till March as he quests for another international call-up. It's funny this morning, actually, when I woke up this morning, when I got off the plane this morning, I was looking at X, and Man United posted something about Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw deserves his flowers. And I thought, you know what? It's not propaganda because it's the Man United official account, but it's about the third time recently where I've seen the Man United official account doing Luke Shaw PR. So they're obviously aware of, within this fan base, there's a lot of people who want Luke Shaw fit and playing well, but there's also a lot of us who are like, we have got our issues with Luke Shaw, and certainly I can't wait to see Martinez back fit and him out of the team. I think that's the future for Manchester United. But whilst he's fit, he's done a reasonable job. I don't buy into the fact that you can post a few clips of him making a couple of good tackles and say Luke Shaw's back. I think we watch the games week in, week out. We're intelligent enough to see that he tends to have a good first 45 minutes and a bad second 45 minutes, and that's a running theme with him. I don't know whether that's because of his body's not capable of playing a full 90 minutes, or I don't know what it is, but I think Luke Shaw in the second half of games has been quite poor, which is why I want to see Lisandro Martinez come through. I think Aiden Heaven's a fantastic player as well. So, yeah, interesting. But also, get your comments in on that. Amorim was asked about the next 10 games and what an opportunity it is for Manchester United, quite simply, because I think we're playing 10 teams in the Premier League between now and, let me just count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 Premier League games between today, well, not today, between the 23rd of November and the 7th of January. So that's an incredible amount of fixtures. Obviously, I've said that because it's the obviously Christmas fixtures. But out of those teams, I think only 2 of them are in the top 6. So we've got a very good opportunity. And it was put to Ruben Amorim, how much of an opportunity is this for Manchester United over the next coming weeks to really stake a claim for Champions League football. Of course, there is the flip side to that coin. If we go and do really well in these next 10 games, maybe they close the door on any January incomings. I think that could be dangerous, by the way, because, 10 games is a lot of games. It's just over a quarter of a season, but there'll be 10 other games that are difficult after January. I'm certainly not going to get lulled into a false sense of security around the fact that if we win 9 of the next 10 and we don't need to do business in January, I think that's foolish on a major level. But I think some people will be talking about league titles and saying we don't need it, and we absolutely have to. And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we absolutely, regardless of results over the next 10 games, we still need to be active in the January transfer market, absolutely. But Ruben Amorim was asked about the next 10 games and the importance of them. And just a recap, by the way, Everton, Monday, Palace away, a week on Sunday. Then it's West Ham on the Thursday at home. Then it's Wolves away. So the next 4 games you're expecting to win 3 and draw 1, maybe win all 4. Then you've got Bournemouth at home, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves away. Those 4, and I'm doing them in chunks of 4. I'd say Bournemouth at home I'd fancy us. Villa away will be difficult. Newcastle at home I'd fancy us. And Wolves at home I'd fancy us. So again, I'm looking to win 3 out of the 4 for the next chunk of 4 games. And then the final 2 games are Leeds away. Could be tough, but quality you hope would come out. And Burnley away. And again, you're looking at that and I'm going, out of the next 10 games, I am looking at 8 wins. And I know that's ridiculous, but on paper, and it's not played on paper, it's played on grass, synthetic grass these days to be more accurate. But I do look at the next 10 games and I think 8 wins. So Ruben Amorim was asked about the question, and he said, look, it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant to look at the next 10 games and describe it as an opportunity, because in this league, every game is competitive. And then he laughed and he basically said, and with this Man United side, you also never know, so it's irrelevant. And I think that you know, some people might take that as quite derogatory towards his current team, but I also think it's realistic in the sense that we have to be realistic. That, and he did let out a little bit of a laugh that even though these games on paper are there to possibly be won, they are also massively. This team, he laughed about it and went, "You never know with this team," which is the inconsistency, isn't it? Like Rogue 12 said, we should win 10 out of 10 but with these players, who knows? And I think Amorim's fully aware of that. He would be an idiot to sit there and go, I expect us to win 8 out of the next 10, even though I do. And I'm not an idiot, despite what some of you are probably shouting at the screen. I would be an idiot if I was a Man United manager to say, I think we need to win 8 out of the next 10. Privately, he will want that. Privately, he'll want 10 out of 10. But he's just said it in a public space interview that it's irrelevant how easy or hard the next 10 games are, because you never know with this side. Conversely, if we had 10 really difficult games and people were going, oh, your job could be in danger, I think you'd be entitled to say, but you never know with this team. Like, we might go to Anfield and win again. So, yeah, look, on the quest for consistency, winning 8 out of the next 10 winnable games gives you a step in the right direction. And I think that's what Amorim is saying. Like, we can't start looking ahead and, you know, going beyond that. But it is a good run of fixtures for Manchester United. So all in all, look, it was good to have Amorim back. I'm going to go through some of the more topics from the week now, because it's my first live show with you for a while. But obviously, I think Maguire being out injured again is a concern. Should we be renewing that contract? Mainoo obviously isn't back yet either. Sesko's going to be a few weeks. We're still fine in relation to the game that we have on Monday, but you know, the wider squad's going to have to get utilised, and I think we've got the quality at the moment, really. I think we're very fortunate as well. I think there are players that are playing for... I think Man United, and I don't want to be too offensive at a time where I think we've got a real opportunity to kick on and win a few games, but it's a reality, I suppose. We are light switch FC, and what I mean by that is when there's a reason to turn the light on, it can be very revealing and exciting. When the time is there to switch the light off, it can be very confusing. And I think that with United, we've got a few players at the moment that have their finger firmly on the on switch. We've mentioned Luke Shaw, it's World Cup year, he's miraculously fit. He's going to try and keep that light switch on because he's still not in the England team, so he's got to keep working harder. Casemiro wants to go to the World Cup with Brazil, but he's also playing for a new contract or a contract elsewhere, the Willian effect. Bruno Fernandes, in a way, is in a similar situation. He needs European football to stay at Man United. If he doesn't get European football, he needs to put himself in the window to go somewhere else. So there's a few players in that United side at the moment that I expect to continue producing because they've got every reason to, which is why I'm encouraged by the next few weeks, really. Because we've got a lot of players that are playing for themselves, which helps, you know, the team. I'm not saying they're not team players, but they have reasons off the pitch to be playing for themselves and being consistent and being a consistent team, which is what it's going to be all about. And I think we have got the quality to beat a lot of these teams over the next few weeks. But I guarantee you there'll be a shock. I wouldn't be so bold as to say where it's going to be. Will it be Wolves away? Will it be Bournemouth at home? Will it be Palace away? Will it be Everton on Monday night? There will be a result again, like Spurs and Forest, where we look at it and go, "How did that happen?" But I expect us to be in the top 5 by Christmas, and then it's about the club doing what needs to be done in January, which leads me on to some other bits. But before that, I just want to, I've had a few super chats here to just catch up on. Thank you very much, everybody. What tunnel will the Stormtroopers use, says Tom McBride. Yeah, if you saw that, I don't think I pronounced it correct, but I was in Central Park a couple of days ago and I did a little video. So I did a couple of videos. I just put them out at like 2 a.m. Hopefully Sesko's injury will allow Xerxes and Cobby to get some game time and Bruno can play at the 10, even though I think it's very unlikely, says Rajaf. We need players with the right mentality to join us, says Tony. And hi Mark, Baleba last season versus Anderson this season. Who are you going for? Anderson, James. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Any views on the NBA? Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, just talking previously there about the midfield. Obviously, I watched the interview with Ben Jacobs that we have on a Thursday with Beth and Ben yesterday. I was really encouraged about the Stiller story. Bundesliga tonight on That's Football, by the way. Get yourself tuning in there. Let's start the football back. But obviously, Stiller, Stuttgart having a very good season, very important player for them. I think at Manchester United, he could, he's got to be the replacement for Bruno. I think in relation to Stiller, it's really important to realise that he has to replace Bruno. You can't bring Stiller in and keep Bruno. Now, Ben Jacobs has said that Favel and Wilcox really like Stiller. Now, that should be enough to put him high on the list. Now, Amorim might be saying, I want to keep Bruno, in which case there's no point in getting Stiller. And I think it's just important to remember that. It's encouraging that Favel and Wilcox really like Stiller. I really like Stiller. I think a lot of you do. But he isn't Elliot Anderson. He's not this all-action, intensity, win the ball back, etc. He does the midfield role very well, but the big thing about Stiller is your talisman in the midfield. He basically is a midfielder that can do what Amorim wants Bruno to do. So Stiller can win the ball back, he can track the runners, he can play in midfield, but he can also feed the attack, transition the ball, and he does it better than Bruno does this season. He's played more, incredible player in that sense. But you can't. There's no point buying Stiller and keeping Bruno because Bruno plays where Stiller would play. You can't play Stiller and Bruno in the midfield too, and Bruno's never going to play as a 10. So I think it's really important to realise that United being linked to Stiller in such a concrete way is very interesting and exciting, but you've got to let Bruno go to do that. Like there's no world, I don't believe there's a world, knowing the profile of Stiller, there is no world where Bruno and Stiller play in the same midfield too. It wouldn't work in my mind. It wouldn't work. So it has to be Bruno's replacement. And he should be Bruno's replacement because he is a midfielder. Like, he gives you everything Bruno does in the midfield. I think he does it better in the Bundesliga. Of course, you've got to adapt to the Prem. I take that on board. But he's also, mid-20s? This would be bye-bye Bruno, hello Stiller. And I think that would be very, very good. But I'm not convinced that Bruno goes in the summer anymore. I'm not. I still think that if we get Champions League football, he will stay and we won't sign Stiller. So, look, it's the international break. You're allowed time to think and reflect. And I think it's exciting about United being in for Stiller. I hope it happens. But let's be very clear. If we want Stiller, it means Bruno going. And if we don't go for Stiller, it means Bruno staying. Now, in that world, you could see Stiller going to Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Man United missing out on a really good player to keep another player and play him out of position. And I think that's my interpretation of that. It's Bruno out, Stiller in, or it's Bruno stays and we don't get Stiller. And you don't end up with both. Make your choice. From a United point of view, I think Stiller is the future. But that's what I was saying about Baleba, because Ben Jacobs said yesterday, Stiller's right up there as a priority as much as Baleba is. But from one positive story to a confusing one, I think that conversation that we've been having for the last few weeks and months is that Baleba hasn't played well for Brighton. Not been dropped, he's been given opportunities, and he's still not playing well. What are we doing? What are we doing focusing on a player? Why are we so arrogant to ignore every single mistake we've made over the last 10 years? We've gone full steam ahead. It doesn't matter what they're doing at their own club. It doesn't matter if they're late for training at their own club. We're Man United, and yes, he's playing badly there, but when he comes here, he'll play well. Or, yeah, he's been a little bit indisciplined there, but when he comes here, that won't happen. Or, yeah, he might have question marks about consistency there, but when he comes here, somebody said it right at the start of the show. We need to sign winners, mentality kings. And, I look at the likes of a Stiller or an Anderson, and there are others, and you look at their consistency and their performances, Why take a risk on a player that's not portraying those qualities at the moment? And that's my issue with Baleba. I accept that Anderson's a difficult deal to do. You know, there is no question about that. It's a very difficult deal to do with Anderson. I know Newcastle will probably go back in, and there's certainly other clubs that are going to look at him, and I think that does become very difficult. But I like the options on the table, and I think you've got to go for the best options that you can. And I'm certainly not buying into the whole let's wait till the summer and try and get the number one targets. I think we've got to be aggressive, and I look at it like Enzo Fernandez for Chelsea. I don't know why, as a fan base, we trust this football club to go, we're not going to do anything in January because we're prioritising a bigger deal in the summer. And I go, we've already been lied to by the Glazers around this crap for years, but Ineos literally did it to us last year. We're not going to buy people in January because we're going for Kenda. We're going for Kenda from Sporting. And everyone went, oh, it doesn't matter about the January transfer window because we're getting Kenda. And then a month later he signs for Chelsea. We're not getting Kenda, then are we? We were fucking lied to. And I think when I look at what Chelsea did with Enzo Fernandez, there was a player that Real Madrid were looking at, that other Premier League clubs were looking at, but they weren't ready to do the deal in the January. And Chelsea knocked on the door of Benfica and they said, no, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for the big money in the summer, and you know, there's going to be a bidding war. So Chelsea went, well, there's your bidding war. Do you like that? Do you like the look of that? And they went, yeah, we do. And the deal was done in January, and no one else came in. And I think we might need to do something like that, because to wait until the summer and be arrogant enough to think that we can get what we want when everyone else is going to want the same thing, maybe we need to do something like that in January. And I don't know why it's not part of our psyche or conversation, because we're so consumed by the manipulation of the commercialisation of Manchester United. But there is nothing stopping us spending a considerable amount of money on an important midfield signing in January, other than the way that Man United portray themselves as, well, we don't want to do it now. We want to wait till the summer. We know we've got money. We know we've got money. We've got money from the Baleba deal that we didn't do. We also know that money's going to come in the summer. There's ways that football clubs can transact in January in a big way. But RRP says, why would Newcastle let Anderson go? They already did, mate. You're about 18 months too late. Why would Forest let him go? Well, because it would have to be a very considerable amount of money. Why would Anderson want to go? He's starting for England at the moment. That's a very good question. He might not want to do it until the summer. In which case, he won't do it until late July anyway, because I think England will go very deep into the World Cup. But I'm a little bit concerned. I'm coming at it from a position of bias, in the sense that I personally think we'll go for Baleba in the summer. I think he will be the priority, and I don't think it will be because of the reason you think. I think we'll go for Baleba because he's easy and he'll be cheap, and he wants to come to Man United. And I think that's why we'll go for Baleba. And I think that's why United are still putting it out there that Baleba's the player they want. And that's why they're ignoring what he's actually doing on the pitch, because they've got a player that's desperate to join Man United who isn't in the World Cup, who they can negotiate with Brighton with, like they did with Brentford, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and not be in a weak position. Whereas if you try and negotiate with Forest and they say we're not talking about anything until after the World Cup, because if he has a good World Cup, that's another 20, 30 million on his price. United know that they're not going to be even... Anderson, how long does that take? You definitely won't have him for the first game of the season, whereas Baleba can be on the pre-season and everything. So I think that's what we're looking at doing. Until I get proven otherwise, I think we're going for Baleba, ignoring the fact that he's not playing well, because he's an easy deal to do. And that's the reason I think we'll go for him. And Alan agrees. Alec Miller, thank you very much for your super chat. You're very generous. He says, wanted to say welcome back and hope the Big Apple treated you well. The team held it down wonderfully. Also, what is the chance Bruno will find his way into the AFCON? Not much chance, considering his passport. But yeah, thank you very much for the lovely welcome back from everybody. Spoken about midfield. Look, it would be wrong of me to say that I told you so, because I'm not that sort of person, but I did tell you so. I've been watching the videos, obviously having a few days off, and the different time zone. Sometimes you just sat there waiting for the missus to get ready, and you're just watching on your phone. And I've seen a lot of Mainoo talk this week, from Terry and from Beth. But we were never in for Semenyo. And, you know, listening to David Ornstein's update again this morning, we know there's a release clause there that's cheaper than Bournemouth will want him to go for, but, you know, maybe £60 million. So, very good opportunity with Semenyo. But as David Ornstein says, it's Tottenham, it's Liverpool, and it's... I can't remember who the other club was. It's not us. And I think sometimes in transfer news, you've got to be a told you so, because we did get a lot right from last March all the way through the summer. And throughout that time, there's a couple of bad journalists trying to say Semenyo, Man United in advanced talks, etc. And we weren't. We just never were. We were never in advanced talks with Semenyo, and we're not in advanced talks with him now, because we chose Mbeumo. Cunha was always the number one. And the second player we went for was Mbeumo. There was never any opportunity. There was never any time. That's not what's happening. And I think that, you know, we need to move on from that. If Man United did go for Semenyo, I understand it would be very exciting. But I also think it'd be look, I couldn't put it any better than this. As Rob, Always United, says, he would be a luxury signing at a time where we need necessity. And that has to be midfield and other areas. But the Ornstein update's very interesting on that. I also think with Mainoo, we've got to be making a decision there. I know Ben Jacobs was saying that the Mainoo situation hasn't really changed in regards to he's still in the same position he was in that final week of the summer transfer window. He's not in the same situation, actually, is he? Because he's injured. I mean, he's been injured for 2 weeks. I mean, I don't think we need to read into anything more than that. You know, injuries do happen, but I think we've got to be making a decision. And I sort of hope, like some people have said, that with the AFCON and a couple of injuries, maybe we can see a few more minutes. I mean, look, there's no way Casemiro is going to stay fit for the rest of the season. So at some point, we're going to need to rotate. But I'm not happy with that midfield as it is, like most people. And I don't think the rest of the season can be how it is. On paper, it looks okay. Mainoo, Ugarte, Casemiro, Bruno. But in reality, two of those players are really disillusioned. One of them's out of position. And one of them's going to be 34. So it's not the right balance. And I think that we talk about mentality a lot. We talk about consistency a lot. I look at that midfield. I don't think it's a happy midfield. I don't even think Bruno's that happy in the midfield. I think he'll do a job because he's a professional who loves the club. But I don't think he's that happy. And I don't think Mainoo and Ugarte are happy. And I think it's an opportunity to bring somebody in who's hungry. You know, you look at Casemiro and you look at Luke Shaw this season. How much of their good performance is about, and their fitness is about World Cup year and playing for a new deal in your final year? The Willian effect, the World Cup effect. People think you're being insulting, but history shows you it's true. There are so many players in their final months of their final year who suddenly start playing well. That's why it's called the Willian effect. There are so many players in the year before a big tournament who time it that I'm going to play well and I'm not going to get injured. So these things are true. And we're seeing the benefit of that with Casemiro and Luke Shaw at the moment. Like, it's not... Why was Casemiro so bad for 2 years and now suddenly he's one of our best players? Why has Luke Shaw been injured for 2 years and now suddenly he's always fit, playing decent? It's not a bloody coincidence, is it? And the reason I'm saying that is because there are players in January that you could bring in to this football club who are the same. And I know Beth was talking about Ivan Toney this morning and how he wants to come back to the Premier League for the last few months of the season to get back into the World Cup squad. He comes into Man United on a, 5-month loan. Oh, it's too short term. Well, is Casemiro not short term? Do you think Casemiro is going to be here next year? I don't. Do you think Luke Shaw is going to be fit next year? Probably not. Are they not short term? We've already got two players that might be short term. You bring Toney in on a short term contract, a loan, and he scores a few goals because he's hungry, I mean, I'm sure playing for Man United he'll love it, but realistically, he'd be playing for himself, wouldn't he, to try and get back in the World Cup? Same with someone like Conor Gallagher. You bring Conor Gallagher in January, he's got an outside chance of going to the World Cup as well. These are hungry players. So I look at that midfield roster of Mainoo, Agate, and I don't think they're hungry in the sense that I don't think they believe the manager trusts them, and the evidence is there. But if we could bring a midfielder and a striker in January who are hungry, that could really help us in the short term. Because I think this is a short-term team at the moment. There's a lot of players in that Man United side that probably aren't going to be part of the long term who are performing well in the short term. That's just my take on it. Men's intercam during the AFCON. Oh, Alec, yeah, okay. I thought you meant the Cameroon national team. Sorry. I'd like to see Bruno as a 10 because that's where I think his best position is. He infuriates me in the midfield, and I love him in the number 10 position. So, you know, I'd love to see Bruno playing in the number 10. And with the AFCON, you don't necessarily have to move Mbeumo or Cunha because Mbeumo will be going and Sesko is injured. So it's a real opportunity to put Bruno into the 10 and, you know, Mainoo into the midfield. And I hope it happens. But I think he's so locked in on those long balls from the midfield that's why he plays Bruno there, you know. Would you swap Mainoo for Anderson, says Christian? Right now, right here today, sadly, yes. It's a no-brainer on a football point of view, but the reason I wouldn't like to do it is because I believe there's a good player in Mainoo and he's from our youth setup. But right here, right now, today, you'd be an idiot not to do it because the value of Mainoo is plummeting and the value of Anderson is increasing, and there's only about 2 years between them. But I understand people who wouldn't do it. I wouldn't like to do it, but I think, yeah. Could we play Xerxes? We don't win 5, cut his hair, says Chris Jackson. I'll tell you what. I just want us to win 5 games because this whole cut your hair thing it's getting out of hand. It is getting out of hand. What started as something for charity and a bit of a joke, I think it's become a bit of a joke. Like, it's just... We're a football club and we're talking about people getting their hair cut, and I'm sure Frank's in the same position where he just wants to cut his bloody hair, but, you know, yeah, please just get it cut soon. How's the kitchen coming along, cooking with Goldbridge for the holidays? Brilliant reminder. Absolutely. So thank you. Thank you very much. That's what tiredness... Yeah, the kitchen's basically ready to go, so we will start doing some cooking with Goldbridge next week. I've got my holidays out the way. That's it. For good or the bad, I'm back with you now. It was... I went to New York in the summer for like 2 or 3 days. Most of it was business, and it was my first time in New York. I absolutely loved it. So when I came back, I knew I was going back in the November international break for a couple of business things anyway. And I said to Mrs., I really want to take you because there's loads I didn't get to do, and you know, it'd be great to go, and you know, also build up for Christmas. Well, you know, I know the Rockefeller tree's not been lit up yet, but we did go and have a look at that. But there's so much stuff up there. The ice rink in Central Park, Bryant Park is fantastic as well. So yeah, it was great. And the international break, did the charity stream last Saturday, which is always a tiring but you know amazing thing. And then hopped on a plane on Monday morning and came back today. It was a fantastic few days. I love it. I love London. I think New York. If you love London, you'll love New York. The food, the cultures, the different areas, the vibrancy, it's fantastic. And you know, if you've seen my Instagram at Goldbridge Mark, there's a picture of me. They call it the Dumbo, and I can't remember. It's got nothing to do with the big bloody elephant thing with big ears. It's an acronym. It stands for something. It's under the Manhattan Bridge or something like that. But the picture there has always been an image from Once Upon a Time in America that I absolutely love. It's like down 2 streets, and then you can see the Manhattan Bridge, and you can get the Empire State Building in between the archway. So we went down there, and it was a pristine, clear blue sky day, and I got a picture of that as well. Down under the Manhattan Bridge, Dumbo, that's what it is. Thank you very much, Life on Pool. So it was a fantastic break, and look, I don't need to recommend New York to people. I've got to get to Chicago, and there's lots of other places I want to go. So I've sort of done New York now for a few years, but it was a fantastic break, and yeah, I wouldn't say I was sad to leave. I think there's always stuff you can do there, but yeah, we got the most out of it, and I really enjoyed it. And it was interesting not doing live content. I was thinking about doing some there, but I thought, you know what, I'm actually just going to switch off a little bit. So yeah, really had a great time, and I you know, obviously some of it was a bit work related anyway. And I suppose I might be going back there again soon for that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was just nice to get a bit of a break. But we're heading into such an important period of time for Man United between now and Christmas. So it's full steam ahead. I'm with you now. For good or for bad, I'm back doing all the live morning shows, 8 p.m. shows, and we're back for it now. I'll get the Christmas tree up soon, actually. I need to get that down. I suppose it's about the time. I think this is the weekend where you can start putting Christmas decorations up. And look, hopefully we'll be celebrating with mulled wine and snacks over the next few weeks, watching Man United pick up a few wins. So yeah, it's good to be back, and it's great to be back doing live content. I mean, look, it was nice to do a little bit of, you know, here I am in Central Park, here I am down near the Brooklyn Bridge, but nothing beats being live with you lot. So yeah, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Can you put your volume up a bit? To be honest with you, mate, I just hit live today, so it is what it is, and everything might need just readjusting a little bit. I need to shout out a bar, actually. Let me just shout this bar out, because we only got to go in there once, and they call them dive bars in America, don't they? So it was, let me just get the name of this bar. I mean, there's so many cracking bars, of course there are in New York, but we went in this bar on the first night, and it was so good. It was, they had, the Cowboys were on the telly, Dallas Cowboys, but they had a bar that sort of looped around like that, your typical American bar. Loads of people watching sport, and then loads and loads of screens that had like basketball, football, everything like that. It was brilliant. And I need to remember the name of it. I just realised Kane Steakhouse was there. I think it was called, yeah, the Keg Room. It's called the Keg Room Sports Bar. It was just around the corner from our hotel. And it was good. It was good. Very, very good. Shout out to them. But yeah, there's probably millions of bars. But yeah, very, very good. When's career mode back? Next week. Next week. I'd love to do it today, but I'd be lying if I did. So yeah, next week. It wasn't Hooters. And we've got the same problems everyone else has, mate, but we're not getting arrested. Oh, I'm not getting involved in the politics of New York. Like, my, as I always say, my opinion is my opinion. I'm entitled to it, and I'm sure my opinion will generate your opinions. I've been there twice in the last 6 months. I just love the... And look, it might be because the UK is going down the shitter, let's be honest. The UK, even when you're walking around New York, you've got... When the traffic gets gridlocked, there's police in the street making sure it's moving. There's people on the sidewalk cleaning, construction workers. You go into bars and restaurants, and the service is better. If Man United were top of the league, we'd be moaning about a left back. You know, of course you're always going to want better, but trust me, from what I've seen of New York, I think it's a fantastic city compared to what I'm used to in the UK at the moment, which is just fucking, you can't do this, you can't do that, we're not going to do this, well, let's ruin that. You know, there should be a slogan, let's make the UK great, but at the moment it's just shit. And I think a lot of people feel like that. And I'm not saying that other countries are not without their problems, but you do get a vibe when you're out there of, you know, they've got some things that they're doing right. Obviously, I think there's a lot of things they're probably doing wrong as well. Anyway, look, thanks everybody. I think I just want to make sure I've caught up on your super chats. Chris Jackson says, okay, yeah, I've done that one from as well. Preview for Everton's going up later on. Yeah, I just need to get that done. Well, because we're not playing till Monday night, are we? Which is annoying, but we knew that was going to be the case. Yeah, We knew that. It's not a live preview. No, this is the press conference, which we do on a Friday. I don't normally do it. It's just because otherwise I wouldn't have been. I wasn't back in time for the morning show. Think you get recognised much? Considering New York's such a massive city, and it's a different country. Yeah, a lot. I did. Not as much as you would do in London, but I mean that's part of the thing. It's quite nice just to walk around and be left to your own devices. But yeah, there was a few. Grand Central was the place I got mentioned and noticed the most yesterday, actually. But Grand Central was very impressive, very impressive place. And if you are in Grand Central, New York, they have this. There's a bit of a food hall down the bottom, and they do this banana cake in a like a tub, really nice. And also went to Chelsea Market and got the lobster roll. You don't get anything like that in the UK, and maybe you do down in London Borough Market, places like that, but. Like there's so many places that do lobster rolls. Oh, brilliant! The food choice out there is amazing, absolutely amazing. They do that very well. Anyway, some people are saying catch you later. They're bored of that talk. Okay, I've got to get the preview for Everton. I've got to get that done, so that'll be going out around sort of 7-8 o'clock, I think. I don't know whether I'll be able to do it live, but we will get it out. And obviously, I'm on the That's Football tonight. Live, if you're in the UK and Ireland, we've got the live match, but we do have the other watch along as well, where you can join in as well. So that'll be on That's Football. But great to be back. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you did watch live, if you didn't, you maybe didn't know I was going to be here back on the press conference. So, but I will be back. Obviously, we've got the 10 o'clock shows back now, which we have had anyway. But I'll be doing those, the 8 o'clock shows, and all that lot. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. And of course, I might be back, but Man United are back now. Press conference from Amorim. Give us your comments on that. Should Maguire be staying when he's getting injured a lot? What are your thoughts on the transfer stories? But I don't know why we're going for Baleba when you've got to have a conversation about him playing badly. Is it just because he'll be an easy deal to do because he won't be in the World Cup? And if we want Stiller, Bruno's going to have to go. So what do you want? Take care. Speak to you in a bit.